Hi there. I'm Moo. This is just a quick little forewarning that this Dungeon Master's Diary is a complete mess due to the fact that I've been unavailable to make these per session as of recent due to life stuff. If you get a little lost, don't worry. I was too when I wrote it. But yeah, enjoy. Dungeon Master's Diary. Entry 12. The parties made their way to the alabaster gorge of Udexal to seek out the doors of Greyforge. Party using the liar's keys, both of them have been obtained, access this untouched dungeon. As they traverse within its walls, they encounter several rooms of dangerous traps, dust-laden walls, and descend deeper into its heart, through the frozen core to the molten core. They traverse, encountering monsters almost impossibly powerful, laid there by the Seekers to protect the forge itself. As they encounter these obstacles, they read from the diary of the madman, Nemlin, the last person to ever venture into its heart. Slowly, the cryptic messages begin to make sense, as slowly they realize that there are things in this dungeon that will turn a sane person mad and torch the others. As they venture deeper, the monsters that they have met begin to tell them of two dragons beneath the surface that power the forge, kept there prisoned by the Seekers. And on their way to reach the doors of Greyforge, deep into the heart, to the forge below, they have to make sacrifices. The person that made the most, Charlotte Rosehammer, the witch's very own master blacksmith, decided to take the lead on her sacrifice. Marked for death, she knew that inevitably that she would not make it, as would the others who have contracted Godrot, a disease designed to kill even the most viable of gods. In tampering with this religious power, they encountered an old statue of Salamandrus, the god of justice. Everyone seemed to come away with nary but scratches, marks of their sins. Whereas David's ever-watchful companion Thale disappeared to the touch of Salamandrus. No longer watching, David kept his eyes out in case the Hands of Naseri would ever crop up. As they venture deeper and deeper into the heart, encountering traps like anything they have ever seen before, walls that would cave in, blades that would fire down from the ceiling, traps that would entomb them, kill them almost instantly. They make their way to the last room of the dungeon. In large, open space, with a sealed door behind it, the center of the room, a pedestal with a single lever on top. The boundary between the door they entered and this lever lay a large pane of glass that seemed to retract. Charlotte, knowing her time was inevitable, decided that she should be the one to pull the lever. The final goodbye, a hug, and tears to flow, she made her sacrifice, and her soul powered the forge, leaving nothing but a memory. Beyond the final door lay the God Forge itself, the sarcophagus of the great smith Kaigan, laying there. Awakening her from her slumber, she crafted items of great power from the remains of the elder elementals that were slain before. Now, the powered party members make their way to the prison dimension where Tohva'ati, the water colossus, has been sealed away since the wars. The battle raged what felt like forever. Many of the party, unable to comprehend the sheer power and mass of this ancient primordial, falling victim. They emerged victorious. Power at a price. The world now enraged with rainstorms, floods, tsunamis, maelstroms, high tides, rising sea levels, making water traversal nigh impossible only to those daredevils who could navigate said oceans. When the party returned to Fiantair, to their headquarters, to relax for a day at the spa, inside this consulate they had to break the news to Tank, Charlotte's lover, before taking everyone to the spa, including Thale, who had returned in a physical form for the first time in several hundred years. With their bodies relaxed, their minds at ease, they faced only but one enemy, the Hands of Naseri. As the days passed and the tensions lingered, the Hands finally showed their invitation, 3 arrows to the back of a deckhand, to meet them south of the building, across a frozen lake, where the final battle would ensue. Leaving behind a handful of the original crew to defend the consulate building, the party venture off aboard the Witch and the Nightingale to fight Aaron Kenway and his crew. The battle lasted only a few minutes, the Witch finally succeeding to sink this flying demonic ship in the sky. The barbarism of the Stormbreakers outmatching the cruelty of the Hands of Naseri as they cut down Krieg the Merciless, Aaron Kenway, and Hiram Argyr. Sudreal, the Eye of Hastur, escaped, as well did Savala Demar, firing at the ship from a distance. Eventually, the Witch succumbed to its wounds. Atlas, the captain, and always would be, decided that it was only correct to die with the ship, allowing the others to escape and get back safely. And they did, returning to the consulate, finding the deckhands almost entirely wiped out, and those of the original crew holding on for dear life but one man, Fish, their old friend and blood hunter. Injured, yes, but alive nonetheless. The party managed to make their way into the medical ward and convince Tank not to succumb to the depression that had sunk into him as his body was waning at the edge of life. Akiba, the monk, reeling from the loss of his beloved brother Cinder, now stands on one leg and fights with only one hand. The rest, all dead. Their woes were not yet over as they returned to the battle and the ruins that remained. Dotran talking to Aaron in his last dying breaths. A scoundrel to the end. Therein Medir talking to Atlas as he lay amongst the burning remains of the Witch. last bit of treasure removed from her aching bellows. The pain would not yet stop, as on their return, Judge Esmer Drace, along with 200 armed men and women from the court of Astrudum, showed up at the doors to reclaim that of which is rightfully theirs, leaving them with nary but an option as to either be arrested and put to sick may keep for the rest of their days, or take a bribe, a monetary incentive to leave and never return. Of course, the party took the money and went on with their lives, Tyrone settling down with Toma in a nice, quiet home, Henra venturing off, looking for the next bit of money to come in. Dotrin left to find himself a comfortable cave to stay in as his body became corrupted by the items of the Shrouded Lord, as his body would slowly turn into a mad, feral dragon. David decided to go home for a vacation, to spend time with the one he loves most, albeit with a voyeuristic onlooker, unseen by the naked eye. And at the end of it all, tickets arrived at their doorsteps. An invitation to the play Before the Storm, written by the illustrious bard Ludan Nilith. They all attended and saw their story play out dramatically, beautifully, the best play they'll ever see in their lives. And the curtain finally fell on this tale. So, time to talk about it, I suppose. Quick note, the only reason I have not uploaded one of these in a while is due to time constraints, life problems, the usual. So when the party got into Greyforge, I had to reduce the size of the dungeon, solely because it was 13 floors plus the final boss room, which would be 14, to 5 main floors, and then the 6th floor, which is the final boss fight. And as they went through, they had the same routine as they usually did, which was check the doors. Every single log will be checked, and we'll just keep moving our way through, trying to find any secrets, any treasure, any enemies. And to be honest with you, I didn't put that many enemies in the dungeon. I mostly just had these sort of dangerous traps in the way to slow them down and injure them. Most of that came in the form of killing familiars for a while, which was okay. And then when the fights did happen, winter wights, which are magical devouring creatures, they fought a few of them and absolutely hated it. And as I continued to look back on it, I realized that maybe I made them a bit too strong. I could have had them a little bit less powerful, maybe more of them. And so this battle where it just sort of went, okay, attack, okay, blah, 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 they're dead. But, end of the day, the party got some fun little puzzles solved. They started to figure out what Nemla's journal was talking about, like Salamandrus, the salamander god of justice, things like the consequence rooms, but I like to throw in a few puzzles that are completely pointless. There was a particular puzzle I called the the Puzzle of 1,000 Paper Dragons, which is a bunch of items on a shelf that, if put in the right place, one of them will open, and inside is another item that goes somewhere else that opens another item, and eventually the last box to open opens up and releases thousands of animated flying paper dragons. And I thought that was a really just nice little detour from the, okay, yeah, poison darts, they fire out at you, make a dex save, right, roll an attack roll some damage die, blah blah blah. I try to spice up the dungeon traps a little bit, but at the end of the day, I felt like they were all very samey. And I'm just going to take a little sip of coffee right here. Oh, that's the good stuff. But yeah, there's not much of a great understanding that I had of this dungeon. I had a vision of what it would be, but nothing more than that. By the end of it, I was just happy they got through it and sort of enjoyed it. I think from now on, every dungeon I make will be smaller, more intimate, and have a better storytelling aspect. I did tell the players, this dungeon's been cut down from 13 to 5. There's not going to be a lot of story to tell. And wherever I could, I would just place things here and there just to give it a sense of a story. Like they found Neblin's old teammates, their corpses anyway. Missing pages from the diary. Found items that completed a curiosity set for Dotrin, which is the Shroud Lord one. So Dotrin got possessed by Goravax for a very, very long time and kept on rolling nat 20s. So it was just called the Goravax luck. And as they continued to make their way down, I was trying to keep the flow going, but with every single thing I could do, I never felt as though it was developing a sense of progress. It was always just, okay, you've met this door, you're going down to the next floor, and this is the next room. There's not a good continuation. It's just like ending a cutscene and starting a new one. It's nothing that I want from a dungeon. It's nothing I would want to see in a dungeon, but I had to do it that way so that we had this progress, as it were. It didn't have a feeling of progress, but it progressed them through the dungeon as necessary. And I feel as though doing that again, it'll tire me out significantly. So in the next campaign, which will be happening in about 2 weeks from the day I am recording this, I'm just hoping that any dungeons they do go into are just going to be that nice little bit smaller, a little cairn or sort of spooky graveyard or a big trap. So it'll be good. Having the Room of Consequences, that was a good one. Having a door of consequence to get into the next floor below was just an additional thing. It was meant to be in another floor completely. I thought, why not add this in about halfway through? Which it was designed to be anyway. For the 13 floors, you're meant to get down the 6th floor, and you have this impending dread as you realize the sacrifice you have to make by the end. And having Charlotte do that was both almost depressing to me. I designed Charlotte as a side character, really, to the party to help them out, but she became a little bit more than that. She had her own sort of mannerisms and had that sort of way with the party, but it was a fitting end for her as a blacksmith forge cleric to die, to turn on the forged, for her soul to create an ember so powerful that it reignited the dragon's fire And now she's ascended to a state of godhood now, so she's in line with the demigods, so she might show up again. As for the dragons, they were definitely a little bit more interesting. Vothalum was just burnt out, exhausted, and a Ganthromor. They were very much showing that they had been trapped, imprisoned, and exploited by the Seekers, which made sense lore-wise. The dragons were fighting the Colossus, but the Seekers fought both sides. And for the dragons to be captured and just used to power this forge that was making weapons that would kill their own kind was very, very messed up in my view, but oh well, so it shall be. The final sort of spot in the dungeon, the room, the actual God Forge itself, was just more of a exploratory sort of cinematic in my head. I had a different envisioning for Kaigan, but to be quite frankly honest, by the time that the party had reached it, I was exhausted. I was very tired. So my creation of her character sort of attitudes was very much reflective of my tiredness, and it kind of sucks because she is a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Rambunctious would be the right word. A lot more motherly. Still had that sort of sting that Charlotte had. Well, she just got off as a real asshole. So, might be, guys. So I do apologize for that. As for making the items, I had those items prepared, I believe, about a couple of months into the campaign. The heartstrings of Kinnaid, the Maelstrom Axe of Glyndwir, Amihan's Hurricane Cloak, and Ereshkigal's World Splitter Gauntlets. They were very good, and they were all designed in such a way that it was designed for the original party. However, the party has significantly changed, with therein being the only survivor of the original party, that is. So I had to sort of find a very old item from a one-shot I did, called the Cloak of the Shadow Dancer, just because Henra, the sorcerer, felt a little bit left out from, an axe or gauntlets or flying, because he could fly anyway. So it was kind of pointless. So I just gave him that. And then they moved on to go fight Tohva'ati. Now, the battle itself was, how do I put this, quite the event. They were pushing holes through her quickly. Therein doing a boatload of damage. There's quite a few cool scenes that I thought would have been really good. Dotran turning into his dragon form, then getting crushed down with the eye beams, and then getting to phase 2, where Tohva'ati spreads another head and starts firing 2 beams out and starts making more tsunamis and starts flooding the room. It was really dynamic for my boss fights. I'm very much the sort of guy that's like, okay, this thing's here, I'm going to hit it. And I'm kind of sick of doing that. So in the next campaign, I'm hoping to be a lot more dynamic with the scene, for like things happening in the battlefield that'll sort of change it up a little bit, or distract, or catch an attack by accident. And I'm gonna hopefully be able to assess the situation a little bit better next time. Tohva'ati was extremely powerful. Her tsunamis did X amount of damage. I think it was something along the lines of 300 points of damage along those lines. It was a lot more than that, I think. It was something along those lines. It was automatic damage. Because how do I roll for a monster that is so big and so powerful I just developed a sort of Marat sensibility where it auto hits, does X amount of damage. Are you resistant to it? Yada yada. They did eventually take care of Tohva'ati and the consequences therein of, the world basically flooding itself. And then made their way back to the consul building. Told Tank Charlotte, just hoping that he would react a little bit better. But for someone that's cared for Charlotte for so long, just learns that she sacrificed herself for the betterment of the captain's objective. He was downtrodden, very depressed, to say the least. And it's kind of heartbreaking to make a character so sad about a loss like that. But it had to be done. A little spa day that the characters had and some downtime before the final fight with the Hands was just a nice alleviation. That Thale go with them to the spa, who's never been to a spa in their life before, doesn't believe in luxury, and tried to make them enjoy the day, which wasn't working until Fish decided to show face, and they just got along like, apple and cherry pie. It was great. Got a lot of good laughs before the inevitable happened. I thought to myself, what kind of message would Aaron Kenway send to initiate a fight? And the only thing that sprung to mind was he'd be a right ass about it. He'd have Zavala shoot someone with the message attached to an arrow. I thought, that's very much not in line with Aaron, that's too easy. Shoot him 3 times. So Zavala did, from an indeterminate amount of distance. And the fight went on. They took Nightingale, which is Daron's own creation, powered by Yodi, who's a robot from the future. And the witch fought against the warlock. Atlas was surprisingly the kill stealer in that fight. He killed Aaron Kenway with a power word kill. He killed Hiram. There was another person he killed, and it definitely wasn't Sudrael, because she got away. I couldn't quite remember, because it definitely wasn't Krieg, or maybe it was Krieg. But there was a good laugh that we had in the final fight, because they had Mordekainen with them, who managed to successfully feeble-mind Krieg the Merciless, so his aura negated saves and things like that. It was wild. And Dotrin, in a sort of bloodthirsty rage, kept beating the crap out of Krieg by throwing him overboard the witch, and just kept punting him down into the ground as they fell. And it only just occurred maybe about 4 rounds in, and he was doing this, that I just sort of cropped up and said, you're basically attacking and assaulting a handicapped person right now. And he just sort of stopped and realized that, but we laughed because we kind of knew that Krieg was a lot smarter than that. And he was just a big thorn in their side for a long time and a big objective for that character. So I was like, you know what? Political correctness aside, and that whole spell in general aside, it's funny. But Sudrael decided to completely revert Krieg back to normal. So, Krieg got a few licks in before he died. Eventually, both ships went down. The Nightingale took everyone back, apart from Atlas, who decided to go down with the witch, which Zavala used very powerful siege arrows to destroy, which was an actual event that could have happened in that fight a lot sooner. But every time I rolled the event counter, which is a D10, and it would either be the Warlock fires, the Witch fires, the Witch rams, the Warlock rams, or Zavala fires arrows. which had a couple of other things that he would fire. And the final roll, as the fight died down and the warlock went down and every person in the ship was dead, I rolled to see the final event, and it was Savala, and he fired siege arrows one last time, and it destroyed the ship, the witch. So the witch went down. The party made their way out, and I was kind of content with that sort of ending to Atlas. I didn't want him to have a happy ending in the first place. I never did, for any of the Stormbreakers at all. Or of the NPCs anyway. I wanted that sort of reminder that crime and criminal behaviour doesn't pay. Very Red Dead Redemption of me. So yeah, they made their way back to the consulate building, which had been attacked by Hiram Argyre's machines that carried these alchemical weapons like therein. And Cinder had died. Tag was death's door. Akiba had lost some legs. Zuko had died. The Arcano-Tempestological building had been destroyed. A lot of things had just been wiped out. The amount of deckhands that lay strewn across the ground or being piled up on pyres to be destroyed was a lot. But the party eventually sort of settled in and managed to sort things out before Grand Master Judge Esmer Drace showed face with her small army of... And the trouble with Esmer was that I had plans for her to screw over the party for a very long time. Like I said, very Red Dead Redemption of me. I was thinking of her as more like the Pinkerton Detective Agency. Screwing over the heroes at the last second. But there were small seeds of sort of clues what she was up to throughout the entire campaign that they had seen her. Like the magic item list and the taxation and the registrations. And of course, as the party started bringing in all these magical items, Atlas had to sign off on them all and pay the fees. And Esmer had slipped the rights to the consulate building in there. Because obviously over time, the monotony just sort of ticking and then just signing. So she managed to get it to fool him. So the party, kind of agitated by that, had two options. Either go to prison or get a lump sum of money as compensation just for them to get the hell away. And of course they took the money. And they got a happy ending. The party got a happy ending. Where they could just go off and live normal lives and move away from what they have just seen. And to be honest with you, I was quite happy with that sort of ending. But there was one last thing that I had to add, and that was the actual play that Ludan had been writing about the party, which is Before the Storm, which is the whole campaign's name, where they got to go and see their lives played out in dramatic form. And one of the players, Uruk, who played therein the whole campaign, said, how good is this play? And I said, it's really good. And I can't remember who asked me to roll for performance for Ludan, but I rolled it, and it was a natural 20. And Ludan has these bonuses when he's made a play. He's got a prepared skill. He had a unique ability called preparedness. So he had a bonus equal to his level, plus his obviously charisma and stuff like that. So he had a plus 60 to the roll. So it was a nat 80 on that roll, and it was the final roll of the entire game, and it just sits there. What a perfect ending to have such a wonderful experience at the end. And Ludan had this final say with the party and just sort of said that he was glad he had met them and was happy enough to move on. And then perhaps another day that they might see him for another tale. But that was it. That was the end of the campaign, and I was quite happy with the send-off that Ludan had given. But there wasn't much else to do after that, so it was the final session. I said goodbye, and that was it. After I'd, left the voice chat and turned off the computer and moved on, I sat down with my fiance and just sort of had a little bit of a moment to myself, realizing that this campaign has been going on for about 3 years now, and closing a book or closing the chapter on a campaign like that, it gave me that sort of sense of dread, just saying, I have accomplished this, but did the players enjoy it? Will they enjoy the next one? Will I be able to make characters as good as that? I think I'll be able to. I think I have a lot more concise ideas of what the guys want, and we're going to be streaming to Twitch as well, so that'll be good. Just got to get the whole voice chat thing set up properly, and happy days. We're all good and proper. This is practically the end of the video and end of the actual diary entry, so I'm just going to turn my attention to the players. How you doing, guys? I just wanted to thank you for being a part of this whole campaign and joining me on my wacky, crazy adventures that I write for you, and hope you enjoy them. And that Campaign 3 will be a fantastic experience for all of us, and we get to share a lot more laughs, a lot more debates, and just have a good time as the friends that we have become over the 4 years that I have practically known you guys. So, the adventure will await. And as always, stay safe out there. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little Dungeon Master's Diary, which is the final Dungeon Master's Diary of Campaign 2 Before the Storm. In a couple of weeks' time, Campaign 3, as I had mentioned in my unedited announcement, Campaign 3, The Realm War, will be up on Twitch, and I'll be posting the links for it soon with a new announcement video and saying where we're going to be at, what times, etc. So, I will see you guys in the next one, and thank you very much for watching. Probably unexpected to see me twice, so thanks for sticking around there, buddy.